What's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression podcast, brought to you by MSOTD Rocks. Yes, we're formerly in My Song a Day Rock 2008. We just shortened up the name to give ourselves more expansive reach. And today, guys, holy crap, do I have a fun surprise for you. So, got in contact with this band thanks to that SiriusXM Octane fan page. I've seen them in concert before live once, and, well, I don't really want to say any much more because right when we jump into this interview, you're going to find out what that surprise is. And all I can say is get ready. So please welcome as my guest of the podcast today from the band Awake at Last, Vince. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready for that surprise? You guys ready to find out? Let's go! Yeah! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression podcast, do I have a big surprise for you as I was able to get connected with this band. Of course, that SiriusXM Octane fan page on Facebook that I've been talking about for the past couple. And this is a great connection. I got to see these guys live back in November of 2019 because they were opening for what ended up being my most memorable show. That's why I got the Ice Nine Kills t-shirt on. And I can't wait to get into this one. So please welcome the podcast from the band Awake at Last. I almost said Lance. My bad. Awake at Last, Vince. I knew I was going to mess up.
How you guys doing? It is super awesome to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, thanks for being on. This is incredible, especially what we have for all the Awake at Last fans and the Chord Progression podcast fans. So let's start out with I need you to do this. Can you introduce yourself with your name, the band, what you do, and then also what this big surprise is? Because I don't want to let the fans just wait any longer for this.
Absolutely. So my name is Vincent Torres, and I am the singer of the band Awake at Last. I'm super excited to be here, especially because we are talking about the first fully original new release that we will be putting out since the world kind of went through its whole thing. So we're talking about Unfinished Business.
Yes, we're talking about Unfinished Business, the brand new single from Awake at Last coming your way. And yes, if you're listening to this on the day this podcast releases, yes, it's September 3rd. But when is the single going to be released? Guess what? It's going to be on September 4th. So we are super excited about that. I was super excited to not only hear that, but also get to listen to the single and really dive deep into it, because I probably listened to this thing about at least 20 times while I was working on really figuring out my thoughts and feelings on it. And then about 5 or 6 times before you even jumped on the call. So I've been really going into it.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, that's what I love to do. And not only that, but it's just, I know you guys, you take so much time to really hone your sound, hone your craft, and really focus in on what you're doing. So I love to show the appreciation for it and really dive deep to not only figure out, okay, what do I like about it? How does it make everybody feel? How does it make me feel? And what really works on the track as well, especially from my standpoint. And if for some reason there's something where I'm like, oh, I might be a little standoffish, I'll tell you why. But of course, I'm always going to add context behind it so you understand exactly where I'm coming from. So I'm ready to jump into this. Are you?
Let's do it, dude. I'm all about it.
Alrighty, so let's start out with, what was the purpose behind Unfinished Business? Why did you write this song, and what's the whole meaning behind it?
The cool thing about Unfinished Business, at least for me, when we first got back together as a band after that tour last year, the SiriusXM Octane tour, it was like our first time back at the rehearsal room, and it was one of the first guitar riffs that just that Eric just started playing with, and we immediately just just jumped right into it and started to it sort of formed itself kind of naturally. I was just kind of shooting it from the cuff at first, and then of course, with everything going on with COVID and how much of a crazy shift and change that was on the music industry, especially, and the gigging industry. And we had worked 10 years to get to the point where we were touring and doing the shows we were doing. And, we were gearing up to go back out on our headliner and keep doing the shows. And then it was just boom, everything just was silenced for months. So, the only thing we could think of to do was write music and try and record it and get, new music together to put out. And so Unfinished Business, it really, for me, it reflects the times that we're in, because I know that a lot of people struggle, but going from being someone very social and surrounded by hundreds of people every night, and being able to promote the band and be around the people, and then losing that, it was really hard for me. So Unfinished Business is sort of a resurgence of sorts, like like I'm coming back, like there's no way I'm gonna let this end here, you know what I mean? And so unfinished business, it is sort of a reflection of this kind of dark time that we find ourselves in right now, and I always, I heard a quote that said, you know there are things, or the human spirit is one of the hardest things to break, you know what I mean? And I think unfinished business for me is a little bit of my take on that, and of trying to inspire the people to realize that there's still so much more, that if anything, that it's even more important now that we do what we love and do what we're passionate about, and like continue to do it, because in a lot of ways, with all of this craziness that's going on, it's the time to reflect on that, and put that effort out there. So for me, it was very much kind of, I had unfinished business, and that's why I think like the song just kind of came to me. It was like, I'm not ready to let this silence me.
Totally understandable. And when I was taking a look at it, like I've got my note sheet right here. So if I turn my head, don't be alarmed. I'm just
Worried,
making
brother.
sure I got what I got. But from the meaning, what I took from it was, I thought the meaning was something about self growth, because in life, there's times we're bound to change over time, especially with something like this that's going on, where all of a sudden, and from February, where all of a sudden, like where everyone's going to concerts and going to shows, everyone's having a good time, no care in the world, all of a sudden March hits, and then boom, everything gets shut down over the coronavirus pandemic. And since that time, there's been so much change, so much turmoil, so much everything you could possibly think of, not only internally, but externally at the same time. And there's going to be pressure not only to, figure out what's going on, but also there's times where there's pressure to not grow and not change, because you don't want to give up what you had going. You don't want to give up that sense of familiar, that sense of normalcy that you had. But it's just kind of the way that it feels like, especially with calling it unfinished business. It has this like anthemic feel against the premise of, we can't sit still. We have to grow, especially during a time like this, due to the fact that we're sitting here. We have the time. We realize that life is more fragile than we thought it was. So
Yes.
I mean, go
Definitely
forward and
agree
just,
with you on that. It was, man, I went through so many different like mental like processes when things went down, like going from being out there with everything and then being stuck somewhere. It's like, whew, the anxieties do not do not let up. You know what I mean?
yeah, I had the same feel, because all of a sudden it was like, okay, here I am, like I'm doing this, working a full-time job, going to work every single day as well, going to the gym, constantly hanging out with friends, and working all the time too, not getting much sleep, but that's just my normal nature. All of a sudden everything changes, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm not going into an office. I'm not staying at home either, because like the Wi-Fi connection I have for uploading isn't that good, so I'm always working at home from my mom and dad's house. So at least I got to see them more and still kind of stay social
Right.
in that aspect. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, the gym's closed, so I can't do that. So I have to work out outside by myself. My friends, all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, for at first month, no one wanted to see each other, because everyone was afraid of, okay, what's going on here? No one knew. But the one thing I had consistent for myself was working on this podcast, working on everything with my song They Rock 2008, and then just forcing it out there and just talking with as many bands as possible, just really trying to grow this. And that was my sense of normalcy. So I was like, okay, if this is what I want to do, let's just keep expanding it. Like, let's just keep this as that unfinished business, and let's just keep driving forward.
Moving mountains, my friend. Just got to keep on cruising.
Exactly. And again, perfect timing to release something like this, as again, the world is still kind of in that we're definitely not back to normal, especially in the music industry, because I mean, not only you guys, especially with touring, for a fan like myself, I mean, I had a shit ton of concerts to go to. There were weekends where all of a sudden it was not even just music festivals, but that.
Major festivals, man. Like I couldn't believe like things like Bamboozle started going down, and even Delaware has the Firefly Festival, which was like huge. It was a big thing. Oh, they always got like crazy acts out there. When I heard that was done, I was like, whoa, like this is real, man. This is like no bueno. Like, ugh. It's like
Yeah,
it just sort of an apocalypse basically happened for the musicians, and I feel it for you guys. I feel it for all of us. You know what I mean? Like it is a great time to reflect and write, but it was crazy times.
yeah, it's a great time to just kind of say, okay, we can't really tour right now. We can't go out and play live music right now. but what can we do to continue to grow as artists? What can we continue to do to make sure our band stays growing and stay relevant? And then you saw a lot of people doing streaming stuff. You saw bands like From Ashes to New doing all those weird or those wacky covers that they were doing that I absolutely loved.
They did do some interesting stuff. I got a kick out of that.
I got a kick out of the Wake Me Up When 2020 Ends one, especially with Danny Case wearing the T-Rex suit. That was absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Or then you get guys like Matt Heafy and Ronnie Radke becoming just gigantic Twitch streamers out of nowhere. But then again, they're doing it and they're just doing so many different things that it just makes a lot of sense. All of a sudden, guys like Craig Mabbitt, Telly from The Word Alive jumped on that as well. It's just like, God damn.
Yeah, man. Shit, I would like to get into that myself. I got to find the right games to play, you know?
I'll say one thing you could possibly do is just like, because everyone's playing all the same games, go something different. Start playing like old like NES or N64 games or PS1 games.
That would be cool. I would love to like take people on like a little nostalgic journey through some old games that, you know, maybe not everybody knows about.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's see let's try and speed run Super Mario 64 in the slowest speed run possible.
Oof. I've seen that. That was a crazy video. The one guy beat it in like 23 minutes by like using a glitch or something. It was ridiculous.
The one I've got is like, I'll do that for his Banjo-Kazooie, get another N64 game very similar to Super Mario 64. My fastest ever is like 4:45, and I'm like, man, that's great. I tried doing it again this year after I had to get appendix surgery, because I'm like, okay, it's the perfect time to do this. Mm-hmm. And I came in at like 5:30, and I was pissed. I'm like, oh man, every single year it's like, okay, I'm getting better. Nope, this time completely lost it.
No, I love those old games though.
I gotta get back into it because I consider that now unfinished business.
Oh my god.
Perfect segue back into the song, am I right?
Yeah, I gotta do it. I am excited. It's cool. I have a lot of it was amazing seeing how many of our fans like reacted with the change and how it grew to be something beyond what any of us really thought it could be. And, you know, I will always like thank God. We have the best fan base ever. I love our people. And I was excited for Unfinished Business because it was like a chance to kind of like get a little more theatrical again, you know what I mean? Like I have like a more theatrical background, like a theater thing, and you know I love playing just like heavy kick-ass rock songs, but you know there's also that part of me that likes to compose and kind of like take you on a little bit of a visual journey as well as, you know, sort of just listening to it, and Unfinished Business let me kind of stretch those muscles a little bit, so I was really excited like to kind of move that little journey around, you know, and I'm just excited. I hope everyone likes it as much as, you know, as much as I do.
Well, I was surprised with it as well, given the fact that I've listened to some of your other stuff a lot as well. And it's just, I was like, whoa, this is definitely a little bit of a change that I wasn't necessarily expecting. But now hearing that, I can totally see where that more theatrical feel comes in and that more anthemic feel comes in the song. But that's just a testament to the fact that, I mean, that's kind of in your background. That's in your style as well. So you know that you understand what makes those things work. So you kind of have that in your arsenal to experiment with. And you really brought it out on this song. And I mean, after going through it, I'm just like, at first I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. And all of a sudden the anthemic theatrical feel, I just thought, whoa, this is like for this kind of feel and for this kind of meaning. I think you guys did a great job just kind of forcing that issue and just like, boom, let's try this theatrical, more anthemic style and just put it out there, especially in the chorus. The chorus really took wind on this one.
I appreciate that, man, for sure. Yeah, you know, I love the concept that, you know, yes, times are dark right now. Yes, things are not super easy, but you know, it's all the more reason for us to kind of come together and you know, sort of be the light in that, you know, like make the, you know, for some people, I know a lot of people, you know, and you know, had to still work through it and all that, you know, and God bless them for being able to go through all that, because I know that can't be easy. You know, I have friends that work as nurses and nurse practitioners that have seen like kind of the worst of it, and I know that wasn't easy, but you know, while there is, you know, whenever there is a darkness that sort of takes the place of something, you know, there's always a silver lining, and I really was I'm hoping that Unfinished Business can sort of like be, you know, it can sort of like show you that silver lining, you know, portray that silver lining that, you know, we still have the power to like move forward from this and grow from it, and you know, keep things, you know, the only way we can restore the like lighter side of things is by doing so and being more positive and taking this time, and trying to see the silver lining and using it, like you said, to build your podcast. Or, a lot of people got into streaming, or, it was a good time to pick up that paintbrush that you maybe haven't picked up in a while, and like sit down with the canvas and paint a picture. You know what I mean? Like something, a book you were writing that you never really finished because you were working too much. It was if I'm trying to find the silver lining, I think that was it. It was sort of, it gave you a chance. It gave me a chance, I know, to write more, without having to worry about the next tour or the next, rehearsal. I was like, well, we're not doing anything for a while, so I can just write, and I can just get these last 2 years of experiences, out in song. And, it's that's me trying to find the silver lining in it.
Totally understandable, and it's just kind of the classic sayings like, light at the end of the tunnel, or go with all Batman, go Harvey Dent from Dark Knight. It's like, it's always dark before the dawn. All of a sudden he says, I'm Batman. But that's you guys just have to watch the movie to understand that, but everyone has. The one thing I found interesting on this song, especially kind of looking at the instrumentals on it, because the intro, it started out, especially in the first verse, it was something that reminded me of the song The Violence by Octane Accelerator that came out with, because it was something that kind of had a little bit more like a slower, like bouncing progression, like boom, 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 something like that. And I'm not gonna lie, like I was a little concerned with this because I wasn't the biggest fan of that, The Violence by Octane Accelerator. And I was hoping that, like, from what they did versus what you were gonna do on this song, I was hoping you were gonna go in a different direction. And where I could see that end up working is because you had an inclusion of something that sounded like some string instrumentation there that really gave it more of a specific, like, anthemic and theatrical feel on the background. And I'm always a sucker for that kind of sound, even if it's from like an actual string instrument or if it was electronically put in. That's just something that always works well with me. And I thought it worked well because it was allowing what was going to happen in the pre-chorus. It allowed that transition to flow really nicely. So I was a little concerned at the outset, but then once you get to the pre-chorus, you kind of keep up that same style from the verses, but you begin to add some slower drumming in there, use some more complex fills to transition to the chorus. And I really liked how this works because it created a great transitional piece into the chorus, and also shows us that the full instrumentation prowess of you guys from Awake at Last is likely to just be brought full force in the chorus. And then, oh, was it?
And then we bring the thunder.
Oh, yeah.
No, I love that you appreciate that stuff, because those are those little details that, they get worked out in the studio, and, not everybody takes note of those things, and I know for me, I love, like, well, we talked that I love theatrical stuff, but I've always tried to, like, write music that you can almost see too, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes much sense. Maybe it's just a thing that I do, but like a visual kind of sense to the music, or create a mood. Like, I want to take you on this journey, while we go through it. And I love utilizing strings and like old school, more cinematic sounds to kind of almost make the music dance a little, kind of like it waves like water, and I try to like push and pull and let it breathe a little bit. And I like that you like totally pick up on those little details. That means that you listen to the jams.
Well, I mean, I do that a lot because I always love to see how music will make me feel, and how it, like what you're talking about, where you're trying to take the listeners on, you're trying to let them visualize what you're trying to talk about. It's just through sound. And where I see that is it's like taking the listener and trying to give a specific tangible feeling to something that's really hard to explain. Like when people write about depression, like take a look at, I'll use the band Polaris with their song Above My Head, because I went through massive depression about 3 years ago, and trying to find, like, that song perfectly explains just like the pain and just the feeling of just helplessness at the same time. Like, you don't know exactly where you're going for. And then take a song that I used during that time to get through that, which is a song like Not Gonna Die by Skillet, because it had those super duper strings, that super duper anthemic feel, just the build up to it. So just that kind of connection, just, it's like, okay, so when you need to get amped up for something, why do you pick that song? Because of that string instrumentation. It just allows for that just anthemic build up, like, and all of a sudden you hear the vocals from John Cooper on that one as well. It's just rougher, grittier. It's like, it just, the mix really works out. So that's when it comes to music, it's why I go so deep into it, because so many of these songs have helped me out, and so many songs have helped describe stuff I've gone through in the past. So it's just, when I really pick up on this stuff, it really allows me to kind of just get lost in it a lot easier.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I definitely agree, especially with me. I've always listened, to music in that way too. And honestly, when I'm not or I'm just driving or if I'm listening to music, I tend to listen to things that are like compositions or film scores or something. You know what I mean? Like or video game music. I really love it. Like there's some great video game music out there. I love the Final Fantasy series. Does really good like string stuff. You know, so I always feel like there's always a little bit of that like inspiration kind of tugging at me too when it comes to trying to create those moods. But yeah, you know, and I wanted Unfinished Business to be an anthemic, like get up and go kind of song. And you know, when you think like even Star Wars, you know, whenever the like rebels are like going into battle, there's always that like dun, 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 you know, they're always like they're ready to go. So I always try to like make that, you know, if we're getting to this chorus where it's going to be this like hand raising, you know, let's fight the good fight chorus, I want that strings to kind of like weave us in there, you know what I mean?
So on the chorus on this one, like what I thought what it did was it hit what I could describe as not only theatrical but also melodic and anthemic hard rock from you guys at the same time. When I listen to the guitars on this one, like they stayed kind of down tuned, I would say, but they played consistently on this part of the song, like just a very consistent part. However, it is the drumming on this song that was a standout part for the chorus, and I'm all here for it because I used to play drums when I was a kid, so I'm always like, oh yeah, I love this kind of stuff. Because the focus was on like that heavy anthemic melodic pacing. And every time you guys hit the snare on this one, it had just a certain vigor to it that creates a more power than that creates like a lot more power than it normally would that you get from more like diverse guitars in a chorus like this. And I really love the move overall because it's different than what you would normally hear from a lot of other bands in the scene. And it really adds a certain pop to the song that cannot be ignored in this more theatrical, melodic, anthemic chorus.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love big drums, man. Big drums is always a big like it's one of the first things we discuss when we're working on a song. You know, big drums, big bass. I love the bass guitar a lot, you know. But yeah, you know, I definitely I almost wanted the chorus to kind of be like a little bit of a march, you know. And you know, when you think of like a marching band or something, there's always that like, you know, the drummer, you know what I mean? You know, so we definitely always try to bring that kind of like vibe, especially because we've got amazing like, you know, drummers that we've worked with, and you know, so we always like to like kind of challenge them a little bit and like get it in there, you know. I'm glad you vibe that.
Oh yeah, every time I hear something like that, it's like I'm always like I always say I'm a sucker for the double tap on the bass. I love how it sounds. I love how it works, especially with a lot of bands with how they work with it. And this one was just that certain hit on the snare every single time just added so much to it. It was nuts.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and then even going through the rest of the song, so all of a sudden like get to the second verse, and I like the second verse more than I did the first one because you had a little bit more of a diverse instrumental base. Like the guitars were more prominent, the drumming was there, and it just stuck out more. Really give up more of that anthemic feel as the pre-chorus gains back into the chorus. However, I think that going with a little bit less on the first verse and then more on the second verse, especially as you listen through it, it just makes that second verse stand out so much more. So I was just like, oh boy, this is getting good. This is getting good, guys. Yeah.
Man, I love how in depth you actually listen to things because you're pointing out a lot of things that I did on purpose, that we did on purpose. Because you know, with music, you always want it to build, you know. So if we start with a more like, you know, remove some of the music for the first verse, but then when the second verse kicks in, we can kind of like introduce the same elements but just a little bit bigger. It does kind of get you kind of like pumped up a little bit to get ready for that chorus to hit again. So I'm glad you pick up on these things. You're sharp. You're a sharp one, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I should have had a knife for this and been like, I'm sharp. Yeah. Well, wait. Actually, I do have one. I'm sharp. Yeah. Thank you, Ice Nine Kills.
Ice Nine Kills. What an awesome band. They're so cool, so fun to watch live. They just had like such a vibe.
Oh god, yeah, that was it was like what I always describe with that show was it was no matter what happened. No matter what happened, whether I was in the pit going nuts, like right outside the pit getting pushed around, or if I was kind of a little bit offside watching the show and just like watching it unfold, no matter what, it was you were just going to get this completely different experience, but it was going to be the exact same energy all the way through.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a crazy awesome tour, man. I love all those guys. We had such a good time on that. You know, just watching them all just get up there and do their thing is great. It was like an honor to open that up, you know. We were just like, well, we're opening, guys. Let's do the best we can, you know. Let's start this thing off right, you know.
Yeah, I totally do want to get to that, but I just want to make sure that we kind of wrap up everything with unfinished business and not leave anything unfinished because this is the big thing on the podcast. Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god, we can't wait to listen to this now!" Like I'm hoping for that. So
me too, man. Me too.
And then continuing on with like when you got to the bridge of the song, like I love the instrumentals. They got a little bit harder. The drums keep up the idea that they had in the chorus with the snares hitting with a lot more vigor. However, the guitars were featured on this bridge. It was like the volume got amped up a little bit, and just to match what the drums are doing, and that down tune style, it still stays consistent here, but that amped up volume really matches the drums well. They complement one each other great well. And I like this move because with that anthemic, more melodic hard rock feel in the song, what you guys are doing is adding more of this hard rock feel to it that you guys are more used to, and it creates this more diverse track, especially once you lead in the guitar solo, because that guitar solo ends up upping the pitch slightly and doesn't go for very long. But I really like how you use it on this track, because that higher pitch plays in contrast against the rest of the bridge and the rest of the drumming and the rest of the song as well. But though it is short, it provides just a different sound and just a great transition going into that last chorus, and just giving you a different feel from how you went from the first verse and the first pre-chorus into the chorus the first time, then how you did it the second time, and how you did it the third time. Everything sounded different. Everything was much more diverse from an instrumental standpoint, and I really did like how you guys pulled that off.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think for me the bridge was definitely we keep saying like this anthemic sort of like lift up song. I think the bridge was definitely like the part in the song where I'm directly like speaking to the listener. You know what I mean? That's like that. The bridge is for it isn't telling the story the same way as the verses are. That's sort of when I'm up there and that's my statement with unfinished business. Because you know it's a call to arms, and I wanted the bridge to definitely like encompass that. And we don't usually do super long guitar solos, but we do have some shredders, so we like to just like mess around with it a little bit, that's always fun to just like cut in real quick, or visually I always picture just that like lightning bolt on a guitar, you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
that little cut in where it's just like, here's a little shreddy jam, and then we can just bring it back to the chorus and build that up twice as much.
Yeah, kind of like if your songs were like in a Tenacious D movie, it would just be like every time the guitar solo hits, like your lead guitars would just get struck by lightning.
That would be so awesome. I love
And
Tenacious D too. That was a good one. That's
Oh
one of
yeah.
my
And
favorites.
then what you were speaking about the bridge, especially what you're talking about with your vocals as well. Because what I saw was it was working with like a slightly lower pitch than what you've been doing throughout the whole entire song at that point. And your vocals, they had a little bit more of a scratch to them. It wasn't as clean as everything else in the rest of the song. But why I thought this was an absolute winner was because it matched that harder sound in the instrumentation. It adds a little bit of like anger to the song overall, but also provides that perfect added contrast to the guitar solo immediately following after it. So it just works so well in terms of the overall flow of the whole entire song, especially from that bridge standpoint.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I always because it was more heavier kind of breakdowny part. I don't necessarily know if it was like anger I was trying to portray, but it was certainly urgency and sort of like a little bit desperation. Like it was, it was definitely like I knew that I needed to like get big and get kind of through my teeth, on that part of the song, because it was an important part of the song for me. It was took me a while to write that part too. Honestly, I like sat down and was like, it doesn't sound like it was a lot to write, but I really did sit down. I was like, oh my god, like what's the perfect thing I can say here, and I hope that it gets the message across.
Oh, it definitely did, especially with how the rest of the vocals started out, because kind of in the verses, I again thought of the bounce from Asking Alexandria because it fit with the pacing, how the song worked overall. But it just, and my idea was like, especially from the first verse, it brought up more curiosity in the rest of the song, because I was like, I'm hoping this kind of just changed a little bit more to the pre chorus and the chorus, just to kind of see where we can go from here, like it did with the instrumentals. And then with the pre chorus, the pitch in the vocals increased a little bit, and the pattern was much more drawn out instead of like a little bit more of like a quick hit kind of style. And
Mhm.
this worked out so well because it matched up with the underlying drums on the pre-chorus, that drawn out style and that more melodic tempo. It was just done beautifully to compare with the drums and just create more of this amped up feeling into more an anthemic chorus. And then when you hit the chorus, I mean, I thought your vocals really shine here, because compared to the pre-chorus, they aren't as drawn out, but that's the right move with the drums hitting just a tidbit faster and the fills being a little
Right.
bit more prominent. And the pattern was absolutely perfect because you guys were using instrumentals in the verse and the pre-chorus to lead into this anthemic melodic hard rock chorus, and your pattern really adds just that missing piece that helps make this a standout chorus. So your vocals were just like that cherry on top of the sundae that was this chorus.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I love my band, and I love when we do the songs. And I always, it really does. We always try to lay that foundation of music, and then my goal is always to kind of soar on top of everything with the words, just to kind of like so it's all kind of a tapestry that we definitely put out there.
Oh, totally understandable. And then for all you fans out there, for all you Wake At Last fans and all the Chord Progression podcast fans, if I had to sum up the song, and it's a little bit longer of a sum up song because of how deep I went into this is how I put it. So, Vince, just get ready. Overall, I was nervous going into this one at first because the first verse reminded me of a song that I'm really not the biggest fan of. However, you guys were able to use that style and construct it so that the pre-chorus of the song was able to build up into that anthemic, melodic, theatrical hard rock sound with the song calling for just that. And then once the chorus hits, you absolutely deliver on that. And the fact that the drums are consistently the most amplified part of the song is one thing that you do not normally hear in a lot of tracks and music today, but it's something that Awake at Last uses to perfection on this to deliver that anthemic feel to this more melodic, more theatrical hardcore, or not hardcore, hard rock track. Your vocals on this one, Vince, show that the band continues to grow and understand how your voice and vocal pairings can really amplify the song overall and make the message stick out in that anthemic, melodic, theatrical hard rock feel. Once live shows start up, this will be a song where fans will really get into it with that more emotional feeling, similar to seeing a band like a Breaking Benjamin or Alter Bridge live, like when you're listening to this track. Overall, I thought this was well done, and for those listening to the podcast, listen to the song when it drops on September 4th, because my God, you are going to be impressed.
Be ready for it, my friends.
Be ready for it, yeah.
Be ready for it. And just to add, like, one last little thing, pay attention to the last chorus, because I do change the perspective a little bit. It doesn't become about just me anymore. That's when I really I did a thing where we kind of, it's about everyone, and we always want to put that message out there that we are Awake at Last. It's not just me, it's not just us as a band, but what we've been able to build. That is truly something that I cherish, and so keep an ear out for that one too. It's gonna be good. I'm really excited. This is it's the beginning of a new chapter for us.
Yeah, and then that lyric video that Imran sent me just to take a really understand, get behind the song. Like, you're talking about that whole visualization of it. Yeah, that lyric video really did a great job at amplifying all of that. So it's just an added bonus, especially if you watch the lyric video for this.
I really did. I love the way that came out, so I'm really excited for you guys to see it, because when I wrote it all out and then they made it happen, I was like, whoa, all right, cool, let's do this.
Now we just got to make sure that once the song drops, all of a sudden we're gonna have to galvanize the fans, get them to start requesting it on SiriusXM Octane. All of a sudden, get to a point where, okay, what is the most played song this week? Unfinished Business by Awake at Last. Okay, what's the next week? Yep, same thing. That's what we're going for.
That would be ideal, my friend.
So, Joe Alfano, if you're listening to this, let's make that happen.
Joe's always there, man. He's like one of the generals.
I've seen him do it before, and I'll see him do it again.
Oh, yeah.
But another thing I do want to talk about with you, especially because right before everything shut down, you were on that Octane Accelerator tour with one of my favorite bands because of that show with Ice Nine Kills, with a band like Fit for a King, who I got into because of how much fun their set was. And then not only that, but Light the Torch with Howard Jones, just a legend in the metalcore realm just because of what he did with Killswitch Engage. And then last year being featured on the Signal Fire, which, God, when that track came out, I remember it was like, this song could use something just a little bit different after the first 30 seconds. All of a sudden watching the video, I'm like, wait, is that who I think it is? And just hearing Howard and Jesse just harmonizing together, I'm like, oh my God, this might be the best thing they ever come up with.
They were so good, man. They were so good.
Yes. So what was it like touring with those guys? Because that was one of my favorite tours that I've ever been a part of. I was trying to get, because with all the live shows being on pause right now and all the music venues trying to, find a way to galvanize some kind of money. The Rave here in Milwaukee was putting up for auction one of the posters from that show signed by all the guys at Ice Nine Kills. And I was in a bidding war with someone to get that, but yeah, I kind of lost that one.
Oh no.
It's okay. I won a different one from 2008 with it was just one show, and I'm like, okay, let's see if I can win this one. It was $120 and I won it. It was poster signed by Rise Against. That's my favorite band of all time. So I'm like, at least I got that.
Great band. So that's awesome. Yeah, man, it was really surreal being on the road with those guys. It was really, really cool. I mean, the crew, their crew guys are amazing. Their teams are amazing. All of the guys were really, really nice, super, super polite guys. Everyone was pretty sweet. There's so much chaos going on those big productions like that it's hard to spend any real one-on-one time with anybody, but then you would just appreciate the moments that you did have where you like got a chance to catch someone on the side or like, hung out, and I've made a lot of friends on that tour that I love and I still try to keep up with to this day. And it was the best, it was one of the best experiences of my life, definitely of my career. And it really made me miss it that much more when COVID hit. And it was like I mean, I feel bad, a lot of those clubs, like some of them might not survive this thing, you know what I mean? And so it was pretty surreal, especially seeing Howard Jones. Like I was a big Kill Switch fan too, so every time I saw Howard, I'd be like, "Oh, hey man," like, "Hey," and he would just like give me a nod and just keep going about his day, and I'm just like, "Oh man, there he is," like, that's the dude. And I'm pretty good friends with with a lot of guys play with Ice Nine. Spencer did that feature on The Change with us. So he was a buddy of mine, and it was really cool to like be on the road and like see him do his thing and see his band do their thing. So it was really a great learning experience. It was a great opportunity for us to be able to open for that. And it made me that much more, inspired to get to a point where we could can headline shows like that, where we can do the production. You know what I mean? So it was like very inspiring and very like humbling at the same time. I think that was like the first time I got a really good look at like the music industry and touring from like that level. That was the biggest tour Awaken Last had ever done. So it was my first time really getting a chance to experience that, and it was awesome. It was wonderful.
So do you have any like specific crazy stories you can remember from that? Because especially with how much I loved that show that I was at from you guys. I mean, I never ever like stay to buy merch after a show because I'm always like, okay, I kind of just want to after the show. I'm like, I'm beat up. I just kind of
Sorry,
want to go
dodge
home.
the traffic.
Yeah, well, not like that, but it's just like because I remember the show was 2 days after Halloween, so again, perfect time to go see Ice Nine Kills because of the
Oh
whole
yeah,
entire
it
Halloween
was
thing.
like it was like the era of like it was the perfect time to be out on the road with those guys for sure. There were a couple of great stories. I mean, on a tour like that, I remember I see so many people when I got home, be like, "Yo, what was your favorite show? Like, what was your favorite venue? What was your favorite this and that?" And like, truth be told, man, and when you are like so absorbed in it the way that we were and like just experiencing it, it's hard to take a specific moment and be like, oh man, this place was really special, because everything was so special. Everything was huge. I mean, I got to see thousands of people every day. It was awesome. I would say probably one of my favorite moments is it was with Fit for a King. Actually, there's some homies of ours, and our bass player got a chance to like do the breakdown on Tower of Pain for those guys, which is like their big, like heavy breakdown thing. So when they called Drew, our bass player, up there to do it, and then Tuck just like went up and just because he's the bass player of For a King, him and the other guy, they always crowd surf every night, so they let Drew play the jam, and then they just crowd surf, and it was just so cool seeing like our Drew up there just like rocking out with it for a King. So that was one of my absolute favorites. Here's one that's a little more whimsical. We had a really good friend of the tour that came in and brought like a baby kangaroo that we got to like see and like hang out with for a little while before it came out. Like, so that was awesome. I think I have some pictures on my Instagram from that, but that was great.
We're gonna get to hang out with the baby Joey before a show. How cool is that?
Yeah, it was like the coolest thing, and you could pet it and everything. It was like, whoa, like it was really, really awesome. So that was a cool moment. But honestly, uh if I had known that COVID was going to go down the way it did, I maybe would have even lived it up a little bit more. I mean, we were tired. We didn't have drivers. You know what I mean? Like we had to drive to each of those places ourselves. We didn't have we had like just a van and a trailer. So we were still sleeping in like the benches and the little bunks in the van and stuff. So it was exhausting. So it was like hard to like maybe even stay out a little bit later or venture through the cities a little bit more. But by the end of the show, it's like, well, man, we got like a 12-hour drive. Like we got to go. You know what I mean? So I wish if I had known things were going to shut down, I might have like just like lost a couple hours of sleep and been a little bit more like on a wild ride with it. But at the same time, it was still this amazing, humbling, and inspiring experience, and I will forever, be thankful to like not only SiriusXM but for Ice Nine Kills and for King and Light the Torch for even having us and like letting us be a part of it, because it was great, and it was and it could have been anybody, but they gave us a shot, and I really, I it was one of my favorite things I've ever accomplished. I mean, it was definitely a milestone for us in our career, and I hope that when the world opens back up, we can get back out there and see all of the new amazing fans we made and all the people that we were able to hang out with during that time. I hope that we can get there again soon. You know what I mean?
I really do too, and it would have been kind of cool all of a sudden if you guys would have just kind of lived it up a little bit. I mean, but then again, that's all in hindsight 2020 because I know after the show, after I end up just staying for a little bit, make sure I'm like, okay, I get me some Ice Nine Kills merch. I went downtown Milwaukee. I stopped at like one or two bars my friends were at. And because the shirt I had on for the show, I think it was one of my Rise Again shirts, probably. It was just soaked in sweat because of how hot it was in that basement. But just it was always hilarious because the show started the earliest out of the other two that were there, and it ended the latest. And it's just like you had like a pop artist in the ballroom, then you had an alternative rock artist in the club level. Then we were in the basement for that show, and it was just like,
I remember that. That was a cool venue. I remember it had a lot of like cool like decorations and stuff. There was a lot of like Halloween stuff out. It had the big doors that you walked in. It was like these big like dungeon doors. It was so cool.
Yeah, that's always where I love to go see a show. But it'd been awesome because I like it's as if you guys would have partied up because all of a sudden, you could end up seeing my this dumbass all of a sudden downtown Milwaukee. It's like, well, was he at the show? Well, he's wearing an Ice Nine Kills shirt, and his probably friends are wondering where the hell did you get that shirt and why does it look like it's so demonic? I've been like, well. I wear these shirts all the time now. Like I wear them, like I wore this one to work like 2 days after the show because I'm like, okay, I want to see what happens. I'm in the elevator of my full-time job, and all of a sudden, like I'm close the door. All of a sudden, the door opens back up, and the CFO walks. I'm thinking, great. I wonder how this is gonna turn out. He's just like, dude, where'd you get that shirt? I was like, do you like it? Yeah, that I think is actually really cool. It looks like it got a little too late because Halloween was a couple days ago. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, no, dude. Ice Nine does a great job with like their branding and stuff on that. I definitely think they really nailed it with that. And they did a really they're a cool thing. Even down to each of the characters being dressed up on stage. I always the theater kid in me is just like, yeah, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you remember for that show too, all of a sudden it was like they played like 18 songs and went off, and all of a sudden it was like a 6 to 10 minute like intermission between the encore, and now we were all waiting what the hell was gonna happen. All of a sudden they start playing like the circus music, and I'm thinking, oh my god, what the hell is going on here? And then you see Spencer come out in the full like clown makeup thing,
full on suit, dude.
Something similar to like this that someone actually made me a custom Funko Pop of him as
nice
Pennywise the clown. So I was like, I knew I was gonna keep this out for a reason, and it was just this.
That's pretty awesome.
But yeah, I was like, oh, like if you guys would have known like COVID would have happened, I mean, I definitely could have seen you guys like living it up more. But then again, hindsight 2020, you probably could have seen my dumbass out at a bar and been like, dude, that guy was at the show. Should we talk to him? I don't know. And it'd been like, hey man, I'd been like, hey, how's it going? Have fun with that. And not only that, but I remember because of how much fun I had at that show, because I remember the end of the tour, because it ended up looping back around, and the day before Thanksgiving, like the last show on that specific tour was the day before Thanksgiving in Chicago. And I had a whole bunch of stuff to do with my family later that day after the day before Thanksgiving. I thought about bailing on it just to drive down to Chicago to see the show again, because it was just stuck in my mind. I'm like, I want to go see this again. And I kind of wish I would have, because again, of what all happened this year.
True. Yeah, we were supposed to do like a headliner starting up right around April. We were going to go out with our buddies and another band from the West Coast. We were going to do the East Coast, West Coast thing, and we were going to tap a lot of those markets on the way. A lot of the people that we were able to meet, and it would have been smaller venues, obviously, because it would have just been like us shows instead of like opening for the SiriusXM Octane tour. But it was definitely a bummer. I look forward to when the world opens back up so we can get back out there, man. I miss you guys. I miss the fans. I miss the experience. I miss performing. Performing's the best part of the job. It's where you can really like express. And I do. I love writing, but it's so much more rewarding to get out there and like be with the people and like get those messages out there.
Oh yeah, and then coming from the other side of that as well, I mean, we all miss concerts, especially someone like myself who misses just going to shows and all of a sudden coming back and all of a sudden people wondering, okay, how did you get injured at this show this time? It's like, oh no, I just got a giant black eye or just a huge cut above my eye. Almost broke my nose one time. It happens. Nice. But it's like those shows, like I wouldn't I still miss going to those shows, even though I'd get hurt at them, just because the fact of the matter is just like, oh my God, they're so much fun to be at. They're so much fun to just get lost in. And it's just nothing else matters in the
So
world. All the
much
bullshit
energy,
goes
man.
away. All
So
that
much.
matters is who the hell am I going to hit in this pit and how much fun is it going to be?
Yep. And everyone like, picks you up as soon as you go down. There's like that sense of like family and just like we're all in it together,
Yeah, because like when I got my giant cut above my eye, it was actually 2 weeks before that Ice Nine Kill show. Because after the burial and Motionless in White came through again in October, so it was perfect. And I got knocked down as I'm getting picked back up. Some guy trips, we go head to head, and I get this huge cut right above my left eye. And I'm like this. I'm like, oh shit! I pull out, and my hands just like starting to get full of blood. I'm like thinking,
Oh no.
oh no! And all of a sudden, the guy's like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. And it wasn't because I wanted to hurt him. It was because I'm bleeding. I don't want to bleed all over the pit. Like, get me out of here. As in, like, get me to like a bathroom. I can just put some like paper towel up there to try and stop the bleeding. He was kind of remorseful. I'm like, dude, I'm not mad at you. I was saying, get me out of there because I didn't want to bleed all over the pit. So I ended up watching Motionless in White on the edge of the pit. Didn't want to go in there because I had this huge cut that I didn't get stitches for, but I looked like a pirate during the show because someone gave me a piece of their flannel. So I tied it around with a bunch of paper towel there. And I was just like, he, this is funny.
Nice. I admire your dedication, my friend.
I would have jumped in, but I didn't want it to open back up again and like bleed all over everybody. So I was like, I'm not going to play that game. But I'm still going to be on the edge pushing people back in because that's all I could do at that point.
That's the other move to make, I know my favorite place to watch the bands from when we were on the tour was from the balconies. I liked getting that like sky view and just seeing the people and the band and like the like line and watching how the whole group, like that center mosh group, would just kind of squirm and then the band would I love just sitting back and just looking below at like the kingdom of rock and roll and being like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, there was a show that was actually in between those two shows that I was talking about up in Minneapolis because it was A Day to Remember I Prevail Beartooth tour. And I had friends that were up in the balcony at the Armory in Minneapolis. And then there I was with a couple of my other friends. We were in the middle, and there was like when Beartooth went on, like that pit was ridiculous, just how much energy was there. All of a sudden, I Prevail goes on, then A Day to Remember comes on, and like all of a sudden when you see crowd surfing, the crowd surfer, like how can you beat that? And I was mad because I was like, I wanted to do that, but then I realized where I was in the crowd. I'm like, okay, I'm in the front row. This ain't the best idea to go and try and do that right now.
No siree.
I told myself next time, but now I'm wondering when that next time is going to be. Hopefully next year. Hopefully.
I really hope so too, man. I would love to get back out there like ASAP. So I'm hoping it'll be sometime next year too. That'd be great. You know what I mean? That, gives us time to keep putting out some good music, and then when we're ready to get out there, we'll be ready to get out there.
Oh, totally understandable. And I know you guys are working on stuff right now, and I know you're in the studio right now and you're ready to do some vocals.
Yeah, I gotta do some vocals.
So as we conclude this, do you have any final words for the Awake at Last fans and the Chord Progression podcast listeners before we sign off?
Thanks so much for having me and talking to me and doing this and helping us promote this song. This is, we did put out This Means War featuring Rick DeJesus from Out Leaves Way, over the COVID. And we did the cover of Carry On Wayward Son, which is one of my favorite songs growing up. I am really excited for Unfinished Business because it's our first like full on just Awake at Last, just like first track that we wanted to put out we're hoping to kind of usher in sort of the next chapter of what we want to do next with this band. So, thanks for helping us promote it. And, thank you all for being with us through all of this and sticking with us. I still hear from a lot of our fans every day and it means the world, to have, the likes and the comments and the interactions continue, even though, it's been harder to get out there and like, do the thing that we used to do, or we'd come see you in person and stuff like that. So, just thank you all for being the best fan base ever and supporting us. And I can't wait to show you what's next, especially when the world opens back up and we can really bring it. But for now, I hope you really enjoy Unfinished Business. And I hope that it sort of acts as the prologue to the next era of what we want to bring to you guys.
Well said. And then for everybody else listening, when it comes to where you can listen to the song when it drops on September 4th and where you can follow Wake at Last and just get to know with this band, I mean, take a look at the link of the podcast description if you're listening on audio, or if you're on the YouTube video, take a look at the description once again. It's going to be a one-stop shop for everything Awake at Last. So it's going to be click, click, bing, bang, boom, and you're going to be able to follow them on any social media platform that I can find their website, find their merch site, anywhere you can stream their music. I'm going to put it all in there so that all of a sudden once Unfinished Business drops, like, okay, we've got to go and listen to this. Boom. I already got it set up for you. I'm setting the convenience factor here. That is my thing because, well, I studied econ in college and I know this stuff. So yeah.
Super appreciated, man. Thank you so much.
All right, Vince, thank you very much for being on the podcast. Everybody, once again, go listen to Unfinished Business when it comes out on September 4th. And this was absolutely incredible. I'm glad that I got to be like the announcer of the whole thing because this is so awesome for me. And I love this. Yeah. And I always end with this, Vince, because I've seen you play live once and now I got to talk to you once. But I don't like to say goodbye because it always kind of ends as like a, oh, that's it kind of thing. Because I know once live shows get going on and once more music starts coming out, I'm definitely going to make sure that I find a way to see you guys again, hopefully get you on the podcast again, and also see you and meet you guys in person because, I mean, how cool would that be?
That would be awesome. There are no goodbyes, my friend. Just see you later.
That's how I always end it. So, Vince, thank you very much. Go record some more vocals, and we'll see you later.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Vince of Awake at Last. And yes, that surprise, once again, is their new single, Unfinished Business, is coming out on September 4th, 2020. And this episode was released on September 3rd. So if you're listening on September 3rd, the day of the release, please make sure you're following them and check it out when it drops tomorrow. If you are listening after September 4th, just start following them and listen to Unfinished Business. It's a great anthemic, melodic, theatrical hard rock track that I know you guys are going to get into, so have fun with that. And on that note, that's going to be for me today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast brought to you by MSOTD Rocks, formerly My Sunday Rock 2008. We just changed the name change it. We just shortened it. That was about it. And I love having you guys on the podcast. I love having you guys watch it and listen to it. I love having Vince on. Can't wait to see him again. And to end this, you guys know this. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes of the Big, Healthy, and Hearty. See